This is the last video about the 2,300 mile trip that I made by myself with just my dogs from Atlanta to California. I really enjoyed this part of the trip. I stayed in interesting places, saw things I'd never seen before, and at the end, I was reunited with Randy, and so were the dogs in San Diego. So anyway, this week I have been working on my video for the trip we took in January and February of this year out to California, and I drove by myself with the dogs and the camper, and I learned how to pull the trailer, and I did eventually learn how to back up with the trailer. The last video those are the hardest 2 days of the trip by myself. Those were the days where I had the bridge panic attack and the strong winds. So this last video I'm making of the trip out is Arizona and meeting you in San Diego.
And the donkey farm.
The donkey farm. So I stayed at 2 Harvest Hosts in Arizona, one on the east side in Benson, Arizona, which was a donkey sanctuary, Forever Home Donkey Sanctuary.
I guess it's not a donkey farm. That's
right.
Where you grow donkeys.
That's right. The land around Benson was a little bleak, and you do have to drive off the interstate to get there. But if you like animals, and if you like donkeys especially, this was such a cool Harvest Host. It was one of my favorites. Obviously, you're allowed to bring your dogs with you, and sometimes the donkeys are in their paddocks, and then you're allowed to walk your dogs around, and other times they ask you to keep your dogs confined because the donkeys are roaming around. Hello, donkeys. Hello. Good morning. There's a donkey. Right here. That morning I got to take a tour of the donkey sanctuary. The founders, John and Tish, were traveling, so I didn't get to meet them, but Suzanne, who is the manager of the nonprofit, I'm not sure what her title is exactly, was very generous and gave me a wonderful tour so I could learn all about the donkeys and how they operate. There were 30 donkeys there, and Suzanne knew all about each of the donkeys, their backstories, if they had any health problems. Some of them were healthy and they were hoping they were going to be adoptable, but they're very responsible and they hold on to them until they're sure because they don't want to saddle anyone with a vet bill unexpectedly.
See, I'm the general.
You look like a general,
He's
actually.
a general.
Very.
He's a handsome boy.
Yeah.
But you can tell he was skinny. His teeth were being worked on, and they were feeding him hay still, but he wasn't eating it, so he's kind of a little skinny. So we have him on a pellet food that kind of melts in your mouth like the Gerber baby treat.
Harvest Hosts are really one of my favorite things about traveling in the RV. It's a program you subscribe to annually, and we subscribe to Harvest Host and Boondockers Welcome. It provides places for you to stay in this network of farms and vineyards and breweries, museums, and also sometimes just people's houses for either a nominal fee for hookups, or a donation if it's a nonprofit like this, or a promise just to go to the business and buy something or see the museum. I figured out camera operator's not the best. Let's see. Oh, I can. Look at us. Hi. I really loved spending time with the donkeys and getting to meet the different guys. They all have such unique personalities. Boaz is probably the most outgoing character, and oh my goodness, he reminded me of Pepper so much. Of course, even though donkeys live a long time, they do eventually pass away, and there's a very touching donkey cemetery for the ones that have passed on. But today I've got to take care of some RV maintenance, like get it washed, because it is really coated in all the salt grime from the road in New Mexico. And I've never done that before because the place we store it washes it for us. And I've never had it out in the winter in the grime before. But I think I found a place in Tucson that I can just pull in and wash it. So we'll see how that goes. And then I need to get my propane tanks refilled, which I've also never done because we, being relatively new and casual to this, have always just exchanged the propane tanks, which I'm still... that's my earring, Pepper. So on this trip, I lost my smart wool cap, my new alpaca fingerless gloves, and a pair of earrings to Pepper's destructive chewing, but that's travel with a puppy. Oh, I forgot. I washed the camper too. I did something else new.
That's right.
I had seen on YouTube channels that you could pull your trailer or camper into those big self-service car washes. We don't ever have to do that here because the place where we store it washes it for us.
How'd you get like the top?
I didn't.
Oh, okay. How'd you get high on the sides? Just a long brush?
Yeah, there was a
Okay.
long brush. I could get the whole sides, but I didn't get the top at all.
Wow.
Yeah, I have no idea what's up there. I've never been on the top. I'm afraid of heights. I won't go up there. So I did that, and that made me feel good, and also it made me feel good that someone else pulled in to wash their RV because they saw me doing it. And that was very helpful to remember, as you know, I felt so new. My batteries were dead. I finally had water, but I'd spent a long time without water in my tanks. I didn't know until 2 days before that I could fill the propane tanks at a refill station.
Learned a lot since then, haven't we?
We have learned a lot
Yeah.
since then, and you know, it's one thing to
And
see
sort
it on
out the number
YouTube.
of mechanical and electrical issues.
Yeah, it's one thing to watch people do it on YouTube, and it's another thing to make yourself try it yourself.
Still have some too. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
we do, yeah.
Right.
So it made me feel good to know that someone else said, "Oh, look, she's doing that," and she fit. And it was nerve-wracking, I admit, because I would pull in and I would look because I wasn't sure exactly how tall I was. Was I going to fit? But the best thing about the car wash, besides the clean trailer, was I got to see Roadrunners finally. I've been wanting to see Roadrunners ever
Oh,
since
that's
we
right.
first went to Arizona 20-something years ago.
First Roadrunner.
It was more kind of unfortunate incident, and I've never had this happen. I am in my late 50s. Okay, I'm 57, so I've been pumping gas for 40 years. But I was at a gas station and I was distracted watching people get their propane tanks refilled because, in all honesty, we did not know we could get our little white propane tanks refilled. You know, we're just learning, and we thought when people talked about getting propane tanks refilled, it was the kind that are kind of built into campers. We didn't know you could get these little white ones refilled. So I was at a gas station watching people get their propane tanks refilled and realizing, we can get our propane tanks refilled. When I heard that click, that noise that the pump makes when you're done pumping gas. So I turned around to my truck and grabbed the gas nozzle, but the click was not from my gas pump, it was from the next gas pump over, so I then covered myself in gasoline. Which, and the truck, the ground, everything, and nothing caught on fire, thankfully. But I did ruin my favorite jeans, my favorite long underwear. I tried to save it, so I carried it around for a day or so and wrapped in multiple plastic bags, rinsed. And the nice thing about traveling with your camper is I was able to go to this lot next door and take a shower and change clothes. But yeah, the clothes were a goner. And then my last night on the road was in Yuma, which was pretty uneventful, except that I did have to back up in one thing, at the donkey farm. The ladies were so nice, both of the women that were working there that morning, the Suzanne, who ran the place, and her volunteer assistant had either pulled trailers, lived in campers, been full-time nomads, so they were very familiar with what I was doing, very experienced, and they really encouraged me to practice backing up, especially Suzanne really encouraged me to practice backing up while I was there because, there was lots of space. I wasn't going to hit anything unless I was really careless. And I think at that point maybe I had never backed up without you telling me exactly what to do. Like turn the wheel this way, turn the wheel that way. So I had a chance to practice backing up, and I did still have a backup camera that was functioning at that point, so that was
Get a feel for it.
yeah. Which was good because in Yuma, Dirty South Barbecue, Harvest Host again, and there were quite a few people camping there that night. So I didn't really have my choice of where to go. And where I had to park meant I was going to have to back up in the morning. There was no getting out of there without backing up. And I still had plenty of room. It wasn't a hard thing to do. It was just because I'm so new to backing up the kids' trailer.
That was the one next to the lettuce field, right?
Right. Yeah, and everybody else had left by the time I did it. So I was not going to hit anything unless I was really careless. But yeah, so the barbecue was good. I got there late and they were closing early. There was like road construction around them. So that wasn't the, most fascinating thing I've ever done, but it was fine. Last night the dogs and I stayed at a Harvest Host. It was Dirty South Barbecue in Yuma, Arizona. And the brisket is delicious. And we are out for a short morning walk. Sun's finally up. And it's really pretty here. Let's see, this is a more interesting night, I think. Although the fields of whatever the crop that is, lettuce maybe. So this was my last night by myself for this part of the trip. And I mean, the desert around Yuma is not quite as beautiful as the desert around, say, Tucson. But there is a stark beauty, I think, in just about any place I've ever been that's out in the desert. And it was interesting to see how they've changed this desert into a very fertile agricultural area in Yuma. Okay, so here's the Dirty South Barbecue where I spent the night. Last night of my voyage to California. I will be in San Diego tonight. Assuming I back up out of here okay, which, I mean, I had tons of room. I'm just not very confident in my backing abilities. Before we left Yuma, Maggie and Pepper and I went to a dog park. It was really one of the nicest dog parks we saw on our whole trip. It was huge. Out west, it was kind of hard. Just if you didn't find a dog park, it was hard to find a place that didn't have cacti and prickly things for the dog's paws. Nice big dog park. Walk around. And then I drove through Imperial Sand Dunes, which I don't think I even really knew about.
What is that?
It's sand dunes, really big sand dunes between Yuma and San Diego. And there were strong winds again, so I had to go slowly. And I was sleepy because it was just I-10, so it was pretty boring. But I pulled off in a rest area, took a nap. I should clarify that I didn't find the sand dunes boring. These were the biggest collection of sand dunes I'd ever seen. So I found this part very interesting. And I went down where some people were camping and riding their off-road vehicles in the dunes, which looked like a lot of fun. Drove through the desert, over some high roads getting to San Diego, but you cross the desert and you cross the dry side of the mountains in California, and then you come over and you start seeing green. And I really do think California is beautiful, but it's extra beautiful when you're coming from.
After you've just mastered that, you can see why.
Yes. It's
written about as like the promised land.
Yeah, exactly, because it kind of feels like that. I think it's beautiful, and it's like Italy is beautiful even when you come from France. California's beautiful, but it was extra beautiful that day. And then I came and met you at the hotel where you were staying.
Yeah. I remember when you picked me up there.
Are you surprised, puppies? So that was it. That was the way out. My first solo trip pulling the camper. 2,300 miles. That's also the longest solo road trip I've ever done. And I can't say I really felt like I had accomplished something, but it certainly felt a great deal of relief. So I have 3 other videos about the trip out on this channel if you're interested. I show some of the most interesting things I saw and talk about some of the challenges I faced with the camper and just with doing something like that by myself. So in my next videos, I'll share some of the fun we had while we were in California. We spent 1 week near Mimi and James in Oceanside, and then 1 week up in the Carmel Valley. It was really great. Now California is always beautiful and it's always expensive, but in our case, this was the most expensive trip we have ever taken. But that was a problem for another day. I'd done the drive, which meant so much to us because it means that we can travel more before Randy retires, because I can make the long part of the drive and meet him places. And that just opens up the whole continent to us, really.
Goodbye to the misery. Write another better history. You're fearless. Even fear's afraid of you. I won't let you turn back now. Even if you're down and now you're healing. And I'm here. I'll help you light your fire. I'll take your hand, raise you up higher. You can dare to live.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a like. And if you're interested in seeing the rest of our trip or videos from our other travels, please subscribe to the channel.